We have several great local organizations here in Philadelphia. One of them is the New Sanctuary Movement. I'm joined here in the studio with Blanca Pacheco, and she is the co-director at the New Sanctuary Movement. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
So the reason why we themed the show about long-term organizing is because we want people to stay involved and civically engaged beyond just voting in the election. And if you've been paying attention to what's happening here locally, there have been a lot of actions, meetings, and just organizing happening around immigrants' rights. Tell us a little bit about your organization and some of the work that you're doing here in Philadelphia.
We are an immigrant rights interfaith group, and we are working currently with 28 faith congregations around the city. And we work with every faith congregation that believes that immigrant rights are important and that immigrants deserve to live a life with dignity. We work with immigrant congregations that have people from different parts of the world, and also with congregations that are mostly citizens who support the work in solidarity. Right now, we're working in a couple of campaigns and programs that we have. We are working on a driver's license campaign, trying to pass legislation in the state of Pennsylvania so immigrants can drive free of fear. And we are working in a couple of sanctuary campaigns where people are taking sanctuary in a church because they were ordered deported, and they're taking this bold action, doing civil disobedience, so they fight their cases from inside the church. We also have an accompaniment program where people who are facing deportation, they go to court, and we accompany them. We connect them with lawyers, and we have been doing a lot of work and accompanying people who are detained in York Prison, which is the prison that immigrants are usually sent after they get arrested. And we have a really good impact on it, like mobilizing citizens to go and both be in the presence of courts that are a place that is violent and that is deciding people's lives, and to witness, to bring their faith. And we have seen an impact from like judges making decisions, positive decisions on the cases, and also lawyers paying attention that someone is watching and preventing fraud and all of that. And we've been going to York County several times a month.
Yes, well, I just want to read something from your website. It's like a statement about the work that you do because it's very powerful. And the New Sanctuary Movement works to end injustices against immigrants, regardless of immigration status, express radical welcome for all, and ensure that the values of dignity, justice, and hospitality are lived out in practice and upheld in policy. And I read that because it's similar to the Poor People's Movement and Put People First. And in saying that, you know, you really value people as humans and their right to exist, and creating, you know, an environment, a community, working conditions that are fair and equitable. Can you talk about sort of the growing number of immigrants that are here in this area, and maybe what you have seen in the last several years in terms of the number of people who are seeking help or getting involved?
Well, I've been in Philadelphia, living in Philadelphia for over 15 years, and I've seen the change, and the change has been positive. Like, for example, I talked to a friend, and she always say, if I want to go to Mexico, I go to South Philly, because the Mexican community has built business there, has built restaurants, have built their community from doing cultural festivals. So it has like really put the community and the neighborhood had like brought life to the community. And she also says, if I want to go to Brazil, I go to the Northeast. The Brazilian community has done the same in the Northeast. So it has been really interesting to see the community creating change and contributing to the city. People usually see as immigrants being a charge and being someone who are getting benefits, which people are not eligible for. But on the other hand, like, they have been really building the economy of Philadelphia. And people do come to our doors to ask for help. Mostly it's like advice where to go to find a lawyer, how to open their business, how to get an IT number, which is a number that people use to pay taxes, but get not any other benefit out of it. They can open a business with that number. So we see different approaches where people are asking for help. We see that people come to the city because they have family members, they have connections here. That's how the communities from Mexico, the majority from Puebla, are in South Philly, and in the northeast of Philadelphia are mostly Brazilians because that's the community. Upper Darby we see is not part of Philly, but it's a neighbor. We also see like a big Ecuadorian community and Central American community as well. We also see people who are escaping violence from Central America starting to build community in North Philly, which is a neighborhood that has a lot of problems with violence and drugs. But what we hear from people is it's a much better than our country, because in our country we get killed. People get killed every day. In here, at least, it's not that amount of violence, which you will say that the violence is really extreme in North Philly. But for these people that are fleeing for their lives, it's a better place.
Yeah, I actually had a debate with somebody about this before. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the numbers, the statistics, there is so much more murders and violence in a lot of these countries. There are a lot of shootings and murders in Philadelphia, but it still, pales in comparison to some other cities across the world. And also in the Northeast, where the Brazilians have sort of immigrated to. I grew up in that neighborhood. It's called like Castor Gardens on Castor Avenue. And I just heard a story recently about it being the most ethnically diverse community in Philadelphia now, that it's becoming similar to Queens. And that this was a very exciting thing for the people that lived there, because it brought such richness to the neighborhood. And I could say, as somebody who grew up in this neighborhood, that it's way cooler now than it ever was when I grew up there.
Yeah, because I feel that immigrants are so eager to adjust, to build their lives. Like, people immigrate here to build a better life, so they take care of their communities. They're like build a business, and they wanted to. Even though the media sometimes portrays one or two stories that immigrants are terrible, and even like the administration right now talks about immigrants being criminals, but that's not the norm. What we usually see is people really are really careful how they move in the city and how they operate their lives, because they have hope that one day they will have access to some type of legalization, which is not available right now.
Mm-hmm. When people who want to get involved and say, I want to address this issue, I want to take action because I care about immigration, I care about immigrants, I care about people. How do they get involved? Like, how are you training people, especially people who are maybe not traditionally educated and maybe their literacy is not very high, but they can still get involved and organize with you?
So there are different ways. For allies, they usually get involved through our accompaniment program, where people are going to courts and they can show up and be able to support and show the judges and the courts that there's community around these people that are facing deportation. Congregations, faith congregations, can become members of the organization, and that's how usually we organize internally in the church. And for allies who are citizens, we do programs of education, why immigrants are coming, like what are they facing, why it's important for you to get involved. So we do education around that. For people themselves that are coming from countries, like, as you said, with different levels of education, we believe that people come here with skills, and the skills that you learn through life experience, many times are more educative that you go into the university or like getting a big title. And we believe that people were born and they have built their skills since day one, instead of this thought that people only need to be served, and after they cross the borders, their entire life is erased. And people come here with a lot of experience and movements back home, and they bring a richness of a new experience, of a new way of seeing how we can organize, and we involve them again through accompaniment or through the campaigns that we work, and we do education around that. How do we put a campaign together? How do we involve politicians? How do we plan different tactics that puts pressure to win whatever campaign we're putting in? And we believe in people's skills in a way that you don't need to have a big title, but actually your life experience, it's valuable, and you have value here. And that's how we get them involved. And there's a group right now of 12 people who have been working hard to build a community fund where they have become with creative ways, and they did one event and raised $5,000 without so much about we need to do all of this education, this research, but with their own skills. And this money is being utilized to help free people from jail or people who are in crisis of deportation. So we didn't need to do like a lot of education around that. They had that experience. They bring it from back home. And we appreciate that. And those are skills that we are putting into play.
Sometimes we also get into the streets. We take direct action. Can you talk about why that's a part of this strategy as well?
I think that's part of the strategy with campaigns that are working, because we need to keep these stories visible, and we need to show that citizens care, that immigrants themselves are, little by little losing fear and are getting engaged. We need to show people that, politicians, even though sometimes they don't work for the community, they are human beings, and we can move them and we can push back, because at the end of the day, if we just stay quiet at home, nobody's going to listen to us and nobody's going to give us anything. And big victories has always been because people have demanded that. And we do it in a non-violent way, in a way that brings our faith we see it as something powerful. And people can always join organizations depending on what are their beliefs or how radical you are. And I think for us it's really important that we do all of this work very strongly with our nonviolence movement. We always bring bread to politicians. Like how we see it, like the way I see it is like you cannot fight someone if someone is coming with a conversation messaging, even though we're pressuring to change something big. And we need people to show up now more than ever, because the immigrant community that comes from around the world has been attacked, and it's being demonized. So it is important to keep that visibility. It's important for us as immigrants to see that not everyone hates us, and actually there's a big group of people that do love us, that do believe that we deserve to live a life free of fear.
What do you think are some of the changes that the immigrant community has been advocating for here locally? Recently, the PARS agreement was ended with the city. Mayor Kenny canceled that contract that they had with ICE. But what are some of the other things? You mentioned the driver's licenses. What are policy changes we can advocate for here in Philadelphia?
Something that we are watching with other organizations after the PARS victory is that we are watching that ICE is not active at courts, because the way they can now get people is if people are going to court, they can like grab them outside of the court, which we in the last month we have seen 2 cases where that happened. So that's something we are talking about and meeting with the administration to make sure that doesn't happen. Something that was also happening was that people were going to probation after they went through the due process in courts, and they were being picked up. The probation officers were turning them into immigration. So that's something we're watching. Something that is really interesting in our analysis is that the way that we're pushing for campaigns has changed a little bit, because we had an administration before Mayor Kenny's administration that wasn't necessarily working with the immigrant communities to create any change or to listen to us. They never met us, but we had to fight really hard to end the collaboration between immigration and the police, and we won, one of the most progressive policies around the country. But now Mayor Kenny has been really open for conversations, really open to push for change. So we are more like kind of working together instead of, we're going to like sit in your office and we're going to fight you. We probably will have to do it at some point when it's needed, but right now where I feel we are in good conversation with the administration, in that like getting ICE out of courts is really important right now, locally.
So I just want to end again by inviting people to join if they are interested in this issue, or simply if they want to learn more. If there's anything coming up in the future, feel free to let people know. But otherwise, tell people the best way to kind of get involved or make contact is either by going to a meeting or going to a website. Let the community know how we can get involved.
Well, there's actions that we always have. Now with the families that are living in sanctuary, there's some public actions, and showing up is always good. Like, it's always good for the spirit of the families. It's always good for ICE to see that there's support. So showing up is something really important. We do have some private events sometimes because of the safety of the families. In other campaigns, we always... have had like petitions online. We have a Facebook where we are posting all of the information for you to get engaged. Accompaniment is a need right now, and we see it that accompaniment need growing. Right now we're hearing that jails are setting people free, so they can open space for other people that are coming in the caravan. The caravan that is over 7,000 people that are heading to the U.S. is going to bring a lot of work that is going to bring a need. Sometimes finding where people can live for a month or two. So opening if people have space in their homes to offer like a month or two hospitality space, that'll be really helpful. And people signing up to do accompaniment in our website will be helpful too. We send notices of what we need, which is usually show up to court or help us find a home for this person, or give a ride to this person that probably will be arriving in a bus station, or picking them up from jail in New York where they have been set free. So signing up for that is really important.
And what's the name of the website again?
The website is sanctuaryphiladelphia.org. In the Facebook, we are New Sanctuary Movement of Philadelphia, and you can follow us and you can see that. If you don't have time to show up, you can always also become a sustainer. There's no small amount.
That's right. You can always give money if you can't show up and support and share the information, right? If they have events. Blanca Pacheco, she is the co-director of the New Sanctuary Movement in Philadelphia. Thank you so much for the work that you do and for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for helping us spread the word.
All right. You've just heard from 3 really great organizations here locally: the Put People First organization, the Poor People's Campaign, and the New Sanctuary Movement. These are all movements building power here in Philadelphia throughout the year, not just on Election Day. I urge you to learn more and consider getting involved. That's going to do it for this episode of the People Power Lunch Hour Show. Thank you for watching and listening. If you'd like to see this episode and all of our episodes, please follow us on YouTube, and you can also visit our website at phillycam.org. Thanks for watching and listening.